Hi, this is Sara Levin, the Artful Inker. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and today I'm here to share this over-the-top Christmas treat carrier with you. So let's set it aside and get started. So we're going to start with one of the mini carriers that's part of the Heartwarming Hugs suite that's on page 9 in the August through December mini catalog. And I've got 2 strips of Poinsettia Place designer paper, and I've already added my tear and tape to these. They measure 2 by 9, and I've torn these long strips, the backing paper, in half because I want to be able to place this down but not adhere the end yet. So let me find my score lines here and bring this all the way up to the edge of the long section and just push that down. And then we're going to pull the backing pieces off now on this other half that goes on out the short section. There's a score line here on the carrier, and the reason for doing that is I want to wrap the short section around to the other side so that you don't get like a broken seam in your wrap. You don't have to measure quite as carefully. So we're just going to push that down, and then I'm going to bend this as if it were open and then push this down. Okay, now I'm going to turn this over. You see I still haven't pulled my tapes off there, the backing tape, and I'm going to start with this long edge on this side. And I can put it down completely. Let's pull these along. I don't pull the backing piece off all the way down because frankly it just makes it harder to, when I'm trying to line things up, to have too much sticky showing at one time. So I'm going to overlap this tab on the end that wrapped around, and then push, and we'll pull these off now. Hold that up so it doesn't decide its own place, and pull this end piece off. And we're just going to go on around, and then we're back to where we started here. So I'm going to open that corner up, and remember we're still not completely stuck down here on this end, so I have the ability to fold that under, give that a good rub, pull these backing pieces off, and then we'll rub that right over top, and we've got a nice seamless look now for our carrier. So let's open those folds up and give a little squeeze on each one of those score lines. Let's move all this tape backing out of the way, and then we're going to fold our bottom in. Just want to crease these score lines a bit more. Got all our pieces creased, so we're going to put this piece with the notch in first, then our 2 side pieces, and then we're going to lock it all in place with the tab. And that piece now is ready to be set aside, and we'll work on some of our decorations and filling and come back to this. Okay, next we're going to use the Poinsettia Petals bundle, which is the Poinsettia Petals stamp set and the poinsettia dies. And as you may or may not know, when you purchase as a bundle, you do get a 10% discount on the products over buying them separately. So I have a piece of Whisper White, and I'm going to start with my Mint Macaron ink pad and stamp the large poinsettia single layer. Let's make sure we've, okay, and then we'll move on to, there are 3 layers that can be stamped singly. And just like to touch all the way around to make sure that everybody's made contact with the paper. And then the smallest layer. Okay, and while we're stamping, let's go ahead and do some berry sprigs. I'm also going to stamp those in Mint Macaron. And I'm going to do 3 of those. And then let's close up the Mint Macaron and bring in my Shaded Spruce ink pad, and we're going to use that for the holly leaves. Now I do just like to lay my photopolymer stamps on my ink pad and not press them down. Just give them a second to make contact with the ink. That should be enough of the leaves. And then we need to do some coloring. So let me bring the camera in so that I can color and you can see what I'm doing without my head being in the way. So we'll move this over to the center, and I'm going to use light and dark soft seafoam, and just want to make sure that what I've got, and this is Mint Macaron. So I'm just moving these to opposite sides so I can tell what I've got. I want brush tips on these, so I'm going to start with the dark Mint Macaron and then brush in a little bit of the light Mint Macaron, and then we're going to come for the soft seafoam in the dark. We're just layering on our shades here and then finishing with the light all the way out at the tip. Okay, so let's do one more. I like to work around towards me, so I do turn my pieces as I'm coloring. Normally I hold the markers in my hand, but these are too similar and I'll end up with my shades mixed and not on here in the order that I'd like to have them. Okay, so I'm going to finish coloring my 3 flowers with this, and I'll be right back. Okay, so the poinsettias are almost done now, but I want to take the bullet tip of my So Saffron and just dot in here. It is okay, and in my world, even a little preferable to leave a little bit of the white showing. You may not be able to see it in the video, but here, and it actually helps to accentuate that little bit of color. Then we need to move on to the holly leaves, and we're going to use dark and light shaded spruce. And again, I like to use my brush tips, and so I'm just going to start and give a little bit of color up here through the center of the leaf. And then I've got my, make sure I've picked up the light soft seafoam, and I'm actually going to use it to help blend out some of this color a little bit. And let's come in with a little bit of the dark soft seafoam over that. We want color all the way out to the edges, and I like that little bit of variation in shade that we get there. So we're going to do that again. Let's put the dark up here at the center and a little bit down here at the bottom to work with. And then we're going to work over that with the light almost down to the edges on this all the way around. And then I'm going to come in with the light first along those edges and blend this. I'm being careful as I come out to the edges so that I'm not bleeding over. And then I'm going to give a swish over everything with the dark soft seafoam. Okay, and let's do this last one. This is quick and easy. And then come on with the light shaded spruce. And then let's go with the light soft seafoam over all of that and work out to the edge here. And then finish with the dark soft seafoam. Okay, and hopefully you can see how that color changes as we work on each one of those colors with our blending. I'm just going to cap these up real quickly, and then I have got my clear Wink of Stella, and we're just going to brush that into each one of these berries here. This is easier to do before the die cutting. So, and then of course this needs to be, I'll take this off camera and run this through with the Poinsettia Place dies and my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine, and be right back for the next step. Okay, so next I have one of the mini coffee cups that's also part of the Heartwarming Hugs suite, and I've cut a piece of the Poinsettia Place designer paper to use as a wrap on my cup. Isn't that side gorgeous as well? And I'm going to lay down some tear and tape on this. And I do have a template for this that you can download from my blog on today's post. And you'll want to cut on the inside of the line on the template and print it at 100%. Okay, I'm just burnishing. I guess that would be faster if I do that here with my bone folder. And then since we're going to go around a curve, I'm just going to take my bone folder along the edge, top and bottom, to soften the fibers in the paper. So I'm going to pull the one end piece off and pull these back just a little ways. Again, it's easier to work with this if you don't have all of the tape exposed at one time. And start here at the seam with it nudged right up at the top. Just nudging right up here at the top. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and push all of this down and then pull some of more of my tape. And I'm okay if there's a little bit of a gap. I just don't want this to come too far down at the bottom, which is what happens as I come around the corner here. Not that there's a corner on a round thing, but you know what I mean. Okay, and then let's pull this last bit of tape off and give this a little bit of a nudge here and wrap that on up. Okay, so we've gone all the way around, and let's put this off to the side. And next I've got the wraps here and the little stitched edge scallop. I've also embossed the wrap with the Wrapped in Texture embossing folder, and the wraps themselves are cut with the Warm Wraps dies. So we've got this little stitch scallop, which was here, and then the 2 wrap pieces. So let's set those aside and assemble these. Now there is a top scallop and a bottom scallop. They're just a little bit different in length, and so you want to make sure that you get the right piece on the right one. And we're just going to use a little bit of multi-purpose glue here on the back. The longer one goes at the top, and let's just hold that a second. Whoops. And slide this over just a smidgy there on the end. And let's put this bottom one on now. Oops. And you could have a deep scallop. I just want a narrow scallop here, or that piece to be narrow here, but you can stick it in or pull it out as far as you would like. So let's do that again on these pieces. Again, the longer one goes at the top. Just hold that a second to adhere, and the shorter one down here at the bottom. And turn this over so I can see what I'm doing on what will be the side that shows. Let's see if we can scoot that over just a little bit. Okay. And then we're going to tuck our tabs under. So I'm going to put a little bit of multi-purpose glue here and just line these up here. Oops. Got to give it a second to adhere with the multi-purpose glue. And of course, since we embossed it, there's not as much surface area touching. And I'm going to, while I'm waiting for the glue to adhere, I'm just going to run my bone folder across this to soften this just a little bit so it's easier to get it to go around the curve. So, and then here's my, just going to put a little bit of tear and tape here in the center. And then let's put our wrap on here. I think I'm going to do one of the seams right at the seam where my designer paper came together. And then why don't we stick a little bit of tear and tape here and pull that off. Let's go on around and put that down. we're up just a smidge too high. And we'll give that a good rub where that tearing tape is. Make sure our back side is going to stick on as well. Let me give that a good rub back here where the seam is for, and I've got a little bit of that shaded spruce that's sticking out beyond my mint macaron, and I want to trim that off since that's not going to be the piece that tucks under. And I'm going to just add some tearing tape here on this end where it's going to overlap. Let's use my bone folder, whoops, and give this a little bit of a burnish, and then pull that backing loose and make sure that we are lined up here with our scallops. Okay, so we've got a pretty little wrap for our cup. Make sure that's going to adhere well. Okay, so I'm going to set that aside a moment, and let's work on the lid. I've got a stitch-shaped circle cut in shaded spruce, and I'm just going to stick that on with a couple of dimensionals. That'll make it easy to remove in case you're taking a hot beverage to someone rather than filling the cup with something else. And then I've got a couple of poinsettia pieces. I've cut flowers from soft sea foam, and can you see that pretty embossing? So the way to do that is you take the poinsettia dies, and then you've also got this embossing piece. Now I've used a piece of washi tape to hold these together as I send them through my Stampin' Cut and Emboss to both cut and emboss all at the same time. And it's a nice little detail. So let's add Stampin' Dimensional on the back of this and add this to the top of our mug. And I'm just thinking I may stick a mini dimensional on the back of this. Oof. There we go. We don't want our dimensionals to be showing. And then I've also cut a piece of So Saffron, and it's embossed. Let me hold that up. I don't know if you can see the little dot detail in there for the center of our flower. I'm just going to stick that on there, and that makes a pretty little piece on the top of our cup. So let's set that aside, and that's piece number 2. Okay, next we're going to use the Warm Hugs bundle, which is the Warm Hugs stamp set, and then these Warm Wraps dies that we used previously. And again, remember you get a 10% discount when you purchase a bundle versus the items separately. So I'm going to stamp my sentiment for my tag in shaded spruce. I'm trying to keep my color choices very tight here. And I'm stamping my sentiment first because then I don't have to worry about it being as straight, because with my next element that I'm going to stamp in mint macaron, I can stamp it so that my sentiment looks straight. It's kind of like when you stamp and then punch with a circle. So I'm just checking my sentiment here. It's a little off to the right, so I have tilted my frame off to the right just a little bit, and now everything looks straight. So let me take this away and die cut, and we are about ready to put all of our pieces together. And to finish our tag, I've got a piece of mint macaron that I've embossed with the Wrapped in Texture embossing folder, one of them. And I've got my scallop tag topper punch, and we're just going to punch the top of that. And I'm just bringing it back so I don't shorten my tag by a great deal. And then I've got my detailed trio punch, and I'm going to round the corners of my tag. Okay. Then using the warm wraps dies, I've cut this shaded spruce circle that's got a little stitched and pierced edge, and of course this one with the octagon. So let's layer those up, and I'm going to just bring in my dimensionals again. We'll add some ribbon to this when we finish, when we add it to our package inside our carrier. And let's just add a couple of dimensionals to each one of these. And that makes a pretty little layer on our tag. So we'll set this aside with our coffee cup and come back to it in a moment. Okay, so we're going to bring our carrier back in that we started with at the beginning. And I'm going to run a piece of tear and tape around all four sides. And I'm just making sure that I match up with my line here at the beginning before I give all of this a quick burnish with my bone folder. And by burnishing it with my bone folder, not only does it help it to adhere, but it also makes it easier to peel the beginning up. There we go. So I'm going to start with the beginning. This will hold my mesh down. Now it's still going to be sticky, of course, because the mesh is pierced. And if you haven't noticed this gorgeous ribbon, it's because it's with the Halloween products in the August to December mini. And it is one of my favorites in there, because who doesn't like sparkly bling? So let's lay this here carefully. I don't want to push this down on my paper. As I said, the tear and tape is still sticky through here. And we just want to trim that off neatly. And let's put this aside. And then I am going to add another bit of tear and tape over this because, well, let's see. I want to hide my ends of this one, and I'm going to start here. I just want to make sure that I'm over the tear and tape, and this will cover that sticky so you get a little bit of bling behind it. Let's give this a rub as we go along here and make sure it's good and adhered. Now this is the basket weave ribbon that is part of a combo pack in the Autumn Suite in the that has that gorgeous foiled paper in the August to December mini. Pardon me. Let's move my scissors aside. And where did I put? Here they are. So we're back to those poinsettia pieces that we stamped and colored right at the beginning. And let me grab my dimensionals here. So let's layer up the flower first. And then we're going to add some dimensionals behind some of these petals here. I just have to get it turned so that these that are kind of flat, and will make it easy so that I'm not sticking beyond the bottom of my carrier, or down at the bottom, and I just have to remember that as I'm lining these up. Okay, now I also did some leaves and these sprigs, and let's put a couple of these leaves in here, just a little bit of adhesive behind them, and I think we're just going to do one here and let it stick out, and then we'll do the pair on this other side. Whoops. And you'll remember I haven't taken the backing off my dimensionals just yet, because it's easier to work on placement for these things first, and then I can adhere the top piece. Let's get this one stuck down. And I want to stick my sprigs in next. So let's add a little bit of multi-purpose glue to this little berry sprig. And we're just going to come right in here with the leaf. And it's okay if I stick off the edge. Give that a good press. And then we'll add these other two berry sprigs, if I can pick them both up, on this other side. And again, give them a little bit of adhesive all the way down on the stems. Okay, I'm going to pick this up and give those a good press. And now it's time to pull this off. And make sure I'm over just a little further than I want to be. Let's come back this way. Okay, and that's pretty there on the side. And we'll turn this up and pop our pretty little coffee cup, hot cocoa cup, maybe some treats in that. And then next, I've got one of these pretty mosaic gusseted bags that's in the mini catalog. And I've just filled it with a little bit of shred for the time being so that we can get an idea. And let me grab my ribbon over here and find my tag. I've got the white ribbon with the silver metallic edge and my tag. And we're just going to wrap that around here. Let's go ahead and tie this at the top. Oop, keeps wanting to slip off. It's easier when you've got it filled with something. There we go. We've given it enough of a pull. And then I'm just going to make sure before I cut that I have enough for a bow on the other side of my tag here. So I'm going to cut this a little bit long on this end. Let's take that out of the way so that it looks nice at the top. And let's put the two of these through my tag. Okay, And we're going to start this bow side first, since it was the shorter piece of ribbon. And let's see if I can hook this other through here. And of course we need to straighten that up just a little bit. And we'll stick this down in here. And then I feel like this still needs a little more zhuzh, so we're going to add some additional ribbon. Okay, so next we're going to zhuzh up the handle a little bit. And I've got some of the white ribbon with the silver metallic edge, some of this silver mesh, and then the basket weave ribbon kind of in a pile in my hand. And I'm going to form a U here at the one side, and then I'm wrapping this under the handle and back up through that U. And as you pull up, you want to spread your ribbon pieces around so that everybody gets to be seen a bit. So I'm just tucking the white ribbon in and trying to get my basket weave ribbon up here a bit more. Let's pull this edge and see if we can get that to come up a little bit. That's my shortest piece of ribbon, is the basket weave. And then this great little mesh pulled around here, and then finally that silver metallic edge. So I'm going to trim that metallic edge ribbon, being careful not to cut off my the mesh. If you haven't guessed, that is just one of my favorites, if I didn't say that already. And then let's clean up the top of my basket weave ribbon just a little bit. It's frayed, and while a little bit of fray is okay, kind of a fun look, I don't want that all over. Okay, so we've got this fun little deal at the top with some ribbon that really makes this festive, and we've got our great little drink and a little treat over here, and that is it for my mini carrier. And thank you for stopping by today. This was Sara Levin, the Artful Inker, theartfulinker.com. Give this video a thumbs up, share it with your stamping and card making friends, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and click the bell if you'd like to be notified the next time I upload a video, and have a great day. Bye.